Today's episode is here. It's ready. I have a brand new guest on the show today. It's really going to surprise you. So stick around for that. Before we get to the episode, I want to remind you, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, please do so. Give it a click. It's easy. All my stuff is up there, my stand-up comedy clips, my Sunday night talk show, which is going up every week right now. We're in the heart of the NFL season. Me and co-host Omar Carmona sit down to break it all down after the last NFL game every Sunday night. Our lives are pretty packed, so we talk about it Sunday night, and we even occasionally like to pepper in some football. Not to mention, I've been putting up YouTube shorts this week on the channel, talking true crime from past episodes, and it's got a Halloween spin to it. A couple up there have gotten a lot of views, so go check them out, but subscribe first. Today on the show, MC Raider joins me. He's a lifelong Raiders fan, talking about what it's like to be a Raiders fan, growing up in the 80s, the 90s, and currently as well, growing up in South Central LA during the Raiders' heyday. Was an interesting perspective I had never thought of before. Not to mention, he's a comedian too. He is a new comedian. He's already out there on the scene doing really, really well. He brought up some interesting points of how he takes his Raiders fandom to the stage. So we have a lot to discuss. We even talk about if it's okay to cry because of the Raiders. All right, we should get into it. Too much has been said. On the show, me and MC Raider. Check it out. Okay, joining me today, I have a special guest on the show. He is MC Raider. You can find him on Instagram at MC Raider. He's a Raiders fan. He is a stand-up comedy guy out on the town, just like me now. So welcome to the show, MC. How's it going?
Hey, good, Patrick. Thank you for having me. It's an honor, man.
Hey, absolutely. You know, I follow all things Raiders, of course. I've been a fan since I was a kid. And I find all these like Raiders fans online, and it's not enough to just be a Raiders fan anymore. You have to have this multimedia thing going on as a fan. You have to, whether you are doing Raiders content or you're a Raiders character, it's not enough. You have to be more than just the guy who watches the game. And then that's where I came across your Instagram, your MC Raider.
Yeah.
You're going to games. You're doing these heartfelt post-game videos in your car afterwards. So
Yeah.
I want to start from the beginning of it all. When did you first become a Raiders fan?
1987 at the LA Coliseum. Went to watch the Raiders Bengals with my dad, and that's it, man.
That was it. So the Raiders were like in your
Uh,
family?
yeah, my dad's a Raiders fan, and my uncles and everything. And I was 5 years old. They took me to a game. That's the game where Bo Jackson got injured against the Bengals.
Oh,
So
I was going to say.
yeah, so I remember good the game, and ever since that, man, I just always wanted to wear a Raider hat or a Raider shirt. And yeah, it was kind of
So
tough growing in South Central Los Angeles wearing Raider gear since there was like a lot of like the gang activity type of thing. But
yeah.
I've always wear the Raider stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so your fandom started with LA Raiders, which is me too. I was born in 1980. So
Okay.
that was that LA Raiders area. I didn't grow up in Los Angeles, but I had some family members there, and I always felt like that was my bridge to the
Right.
Raiders, was family in LA. And as a kid, I think I went to two LA Coliseum games,
Yeah.
and like I went as a kid and I saw some shit in those
Yeah.
stands.
Yeah.
And I kind of just loved it. I just loved how it was crazy. And it had this whole like folklore to it because my dad would tell me about the 70s Raiders and
Right.
stuff like that. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. That just seems like my team. So you grew up in LA and you gravitated to the Raiders early. Were you LA sports guy everything, or did one
Well, I
go
was just
before the other?
I was just a kid. I was 5 years old, so I was born in '82 also. So,
Hmm.
and we lived about 5 minutes from the LA Coliseum. So that was technically my first sports venue that I went to with the Raiders. And then obviously I became a huge Lakers fan after But yeah, that's it for me. It's just Raiders and Lakers. I don't follow anything else.
I see. Right. How, well, explain to me this since I didn't grow up in LA. What was LA like in those Los Angeles Raiders days? Because you mentioned it like Raiders culture bled into hip hop at some point, and
Yeah.
that gave it extra life. But what was LA like as a Raiders fan when they were actually in town?
What I can remember, it was like a lot of like the gangs and like the bad neighborhoods, because I grew up in South Central LA, so that's like the ghetto part
Yeah.
of Los Angeles, so it's like connected with Watts and Compton and all that stuff. But um it just became a culture with the hip hop, especially like growing in that town, like either you were part of a gang, or you were just hanging around with people from gangs and stuff
Really?
like that. So, and then when you wore the silver and black and the Raiders stuff, it just became like that was like the uniform of
Huh.
like you're like, you know what I mean? So there was that a lot of the sports that I remember that was like how is now. But I do remember like when Raiders played, like my dad was big of like barbecuing on Sundays. Like I remember that like every Sunday was all the Raiders were playing, we barbecue, and he'd do like invite some friends over, and they were
Yeah.
drinking and stuff like that. And so I grew up in that environment. So it's even now that's my
Hmm.
thing with my family, and that's how we all became Raider fans. But um so I was in '87 was my first game. So like in the early '90s and stuff like that, that how that movie Straight Outta Compton is just like that. That's all they wear.
Hmm.
People were wearing what they were wearing, but shortly after Raiders moved back to Oakland, like in '96, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. Did you have trouble with people like around town wearing your Raiders gear
Yeah, all the
because of
time.
the gang stuff? So you had to sort of be an outcast. He was like, "Yeah, I'm a Raiders fan, but I'm not a gang member."
Yeah.
So you
So
got it. You had a hard time.
I always every time we went when my parents were able to afford like a Raider hat for me or a shirt or something like that. I wanted a Raiders shirt or a Lakers shirt. But
Hmm.
every time I wanted to wear my Raider stuff, my mom was very strict of not like you can't wear that to go outside
Oh,
or
really?
like yeah, because they're gonna confuse you of you being a gangster. And that was very
Right.
tough on the Hispanic community and also the black community, because they were judging you like you wear a Raiders jersey and you look already like a
Right.
gangster. That was huge in LA.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting that the Raiders almost bridged Hispanic and black communities. Because it was weird that at some point the Raiders became Mexican. Like I don't know
Yeah,
too many Mexican people that were
yeah,
like not Raiders fans. And I don't
yeah,
know how that really came. And in the black culture, they seem to love the Raiders. Like we had this
yeah,
weird connection to each other that we bonded over the Raiders. And like when you said well, like your dad would have people over on Sundays, like my family would do the same thing. I grew up in West Texas, so it was Dallas Cowboys. And
right,
I'd be the one outcast in the corner with my Raiders hat. But
yeah,
everybody got together, everybody watched the game, everybody got pissed off at the same things during
yeah,
games and things like that. But that was just like a Sunday thing. Like this is when it's time to watch the games, and then
right, right,
talk about the games, and then talk about your favorite players, and then talk about next week. What's next week gonna
yeah,
be about? And then like you said, when that like once every 5 years, be like we're going to a game,
yeah,
we'd make to the trip and go to a
right.
game. Well, when the Raiders left LA, what was your feelings when that happened? Were you sad that they were no longer the hometown team?
You know, I remember exactly when they left, and it was just my passion for the Raiders were like I'm just the logo and everything, and I was just gonna write it out with my team no matter what. Like I can't see
Yeah.
myself rooting for another team,
Right.
and then yeah, they left, and I just continue following my Raiders, man. And Oakland and South Central, they're kind of similar with
Yeah, that's true.
like and it's like the ghetto parts of the cities and stuff like that. So that's why you see a lot of like all these like the new generation. They grew up with the parents who were lived in that environment, and that's where we get that thing that we're all bad, but
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah, we
that's
just
true. They had the Oakland foundation before. It's almost like Oakland was the foundation. LA was like the teenage years. And then they grew
Yeah.
up a little bit, went back to Oakland. And I still think we're finding out what exactly this Las Vegas identity is right now. But you're right. Like, there is no going back. There's no like, change all the cities you want, Raiders. We're going to be here
Yeah.
for the long haul,
Yeah.
and part of being a sports fan is being kind of tortured, like
Yeah.
you
You know,
have
when they
to
were,
roll with it.
yeah, when they were saying that maybe they were gonna go to San Antonio and stuff like that, there was a
Hmm.
rumor. That was the only time I was like, you know what, fuck, man, I
That
don't
would
know
have
about
put you
that
over
one.
Texas. Yeah, that would have been a big change. You're right.
Yeah, maybe that feeling right there, but it was just like, yeah, it would have been a hard pill to swallow because Vegas is only 3 hours and a half from my house, so it's just like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I thought Vegas was a good fit because it's still west. It's still the western
yeah,
part of the country.
yeah,
Vegas is kind of crazy. So like that's a good fit. I liked when it went to Vegas, I was like, I can go with that. I would
yeah,
like them to come back to LA, but I can go with I can go with Vegas. So
yeah.
that is true. What are your feelings of the season so far right now? Because I listened to you on a podcast and I thought you broke it down really well when you said the mindset of the Raiders, currently is we've been so up and down emotionally. We got rid of Josh McDaniels and we're like, oh, finally. And then Antonio Pierce came in and finished the season well. And we're like, we got
Yeah,
some hope. And then
yeah,
Minshew comes along and we're like, oh, okay, maybe. And now we're
yeah.
back down. Devontae wants out. And so we've been so up and down this year. What is your assessment of the season and the team so far
I
this year?
just I just think they haven't found an identity. And Antonio Pierce wants them to be a certain way. Um, like you said, when Josh McDaniels left, it felt like I was able to breathe again. It was like, oh,
Mhm.
and then Antonio Pierce, like you said, went in there. It was an okay, uh, 5, 6 games, whatever he had, and it just felt good. But going into the season, um, it's just reality. We have a backup quarterback in Gardner Minshew who has never been a starting quarterback for other teams. I mean, eventually he kept it. He became a starting quarterback, but as a backup, going in for a
Yeah.
quarterback who got injured. So he never had that platform of like, okay, this is my team. So he goes in there with the Raiders, and you could just tell that that pressure on him was
Hmm.
he wasn't like all there compared to when he comes in as a backup and like okay whatever, and he plays good. Aiden O'Connell, second year quarterback, he doesn't have a full season yet. So that just itself right there, it's just very difficult to move forward and there's no identity on the team. The chemistry is not there. The defense looks like they have more chemistry. The offense still looks like they're just not. They don't. Their timing's off.
Hmm.
It's a new offensive coordinator, so as much as we don't want to say, "Oh, it's a rebuild," or we're trying, it's a new coordinator. That's why every time they change a head coach or they keep changing these coordinators, it's like a new. It's like you're training again to learn
Yeah.
how they play. So it's just so difficult.
It really, really is. And for my Sunday night show, I wrote down all the Raiders coaches that had in my life since 1980. And I just went through
Wow.
all of them. I was like, my God, we've been changing coaches every 2.5 years.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult. And, lots of the NFL does this, of course, but long gone are the days where the team has their coach and they don't change from them. They're like, we'll have good seasons, we'll have bad seasons, but this is our guy. And just
Hmm.
the list of names was so long and I got bummed out. I was like, oh my God, I remember Jack Del Rio. I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You know, it's
You see, so
so
like,
long.
look, like, um, you see, like, a Reed from the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hmm.
He's been there for a minute, man, and that's what it takes when you keep the same core of coaches and chemistry with your team, and that what makes it better. So
Hmm.
we just haven't had that. We haven't kept the coach for more than 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Going through the list, just like in the last 10 years, I was like, oh, we got so excited about Gruden. And then Gruden was kicked out. And then we had this interim, Rich Bisaccia, who got us to a wild card game, and we are like, hey, how about this? And then it was just downslope, and then back up a little bit, downslope, and then back up a little bit again. But like, What if we just think positive for a second? Like, what have you liked about the Raiders team this year?
I like the effort that the defense puts out there.
Hmm.
For many years it was always we have no defense, we have no
Hmm.
defense. Derek Carr had no defense. This time we do have a defense that that they're out there playing tough, and I like that mentality. I like all the players there. I do like the potential on Brock Bowers, the tight end that we have. He's
Hmm.
a great tight end,
Well, that's where I
and
first like fell in love with your Instagram because I think there was the draft happen. They drafted Brock Bowers, and I think you were on Instagram Live staring at the camera, shaking your head. It
yeah,
was no words. And ironically, he's been a great spot of this
yeah.
team this year. So
It's
I
just
am glad they drafted him.
yeah, it's just we that's like this year we get a tight end on the draft, and then last year we got another tight end. So it was just
Yeah.
like what the hell? That
Team
was
loves
just
tight ends apparently.
yeah, that was crazy. But man, he's good.
He's really, really good. He's fitting in the offense really nicely. And then you said it, like we were playing with a backup quarterback essentially.
Yeah,
We didn't go get anybody in the offseason. The Jimmy G experiment blew up in our faces. Okay, that was a possibility. All right.
yeah,
And so we're really struggling on the offensive side, but I'm with you. The defense keeps bringing me back to this team. And especially Max Crosby, like he is a Raider. He does the
yeah,
thing where he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to rebuild. I'm here. And like, that's our guy. Like, that's the guy that keeps bringing me back. Be like, all right, that
yeah.
guy's going to give full effort every day. And I'm tuning in for Max Crosby. He is such a great modern day Raider. So it's funny the defense is the best part of the team this year.
Yeah, I think with Tom Brady joining the Raiders, I think there will be a sense of like to make the right decisions because I mean we cannot afford to lose Max Crosby. That guy is a Raider, and
Yeah.
he is not here to like I said he wants to win with the Raiders, so he has that mentality of a Kobe Bryant, to stay with one team, and it's going to be good when he wins a Super Bowl or something like that with this team. But you could only do so much, and if
Yeah.
you keep on losing, and that's the bad part. So that's why I'm really thinking that this game versus the Rams is going to be our season. I said
Yeah.
that last week for the Steelers, I but I think this is the one.
Right. Yeah. Week 7 is a great make or break week for a lot of teams that are like the Raiders 2-4
Yeah,
ish, where like it is time to decide, is this team going to move forward or is it time to figure out if Aiden O'Connell's the guy, Gardner Minshew's like it's a really tough make or break. And going into LA against the Rams, it's weird with the Raiders. It's a winnable game. It's also a losable game. It could go either way with this game right now. Well,
for
you
sure.
mentioned Tom Brady. Let's talk about Tom Brady. So you're all aboard him being part of the Raiders. We got Tom Brady as a Raider in some way, somehow.
Yeah,
So you like it.
yeah, it's a bittersweet thing. I mean, we're as Raider fans, we didn't, we always talk crap about Tom Brady, but
Right.
I just think him being there, uh, there will be better decisions to make as a par owner, and Mark Davis is going to listen, because he's the GOAT, man. I mean, Tom Brady, it is what it is. Mark Davis respects him, and I think moving forward, the decisions they make now, Tom Brady's going to have a little word in there to put. So um, that's what excites me the most on that side because Mark Davis looks like he gets brainwashed by other people. He makes stupid decisions sometimes, and now Brady's there, so
Yeah.
let's see what happens. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I was very hesitant over the last 5 years, especially the last few years of the Al Davis reign, to be critical of ownership. And maybe it's just because Al Davis was such an icon. I didn't want to speak badly of him, but you're right. In the management section of the team, it's been mismanaged. It's been poor
right.
with getting talent, losing talent. So when we got greatness somehow on the team through Tom Brady, you're right. I feel very positive that he would have a good effect. And I am still secretly hoping that one day he just comes out of the tunnel in a Raiders uniform. I'm like, just play a series. I don't care.
Yeah,
Just give me a
yeah,
series, Tom Brady in a Raiders uniform, just for
yeah,
just for sake of it. So this is big. Tom Brady is a Raider. He's a
yeah.
minority owner. It took a long time for it to happen. but him being in there, decisions, I think we don't know what Tom Brady is like from a manager standpoint, but I'm
Yeah.
willing to give him a shot. I think he's good for the team.
And I think he's hands on. I wouldn't doubt if he when he goes out there to the practice field and throw the ball around with Aiden O'Connell and these guys.
Yeah.
Just I mean, it's his team now too, so he's gonna go out there and give whatever tips he could give to these guys and see what happens.
Yeah, just a positive presence, I think, is something that could put the Raiders over the top as far as figuring out what the team is, or at least just getting over the hump. Just
For sure.
being a contender every single week in these games. So I'm with you. Just a little spark. What about Antonio Pierce? Do you feel like if this year isn't successful, they go looking for someone, or are you in it for a couple years with him?
You see, that's the problem with the Raiders. That's just
Yeah.
if they let him go again, it's like another like rebuild type of thing. I don't. I hope not. I really like Antonio Pierce because he brings a different type of coaching. He was a player. He knows what these players are thinking, and he's very, very hands-on and very tough when he talks. I was at the training camp, and I heard him cuss some guys out really bad. Like I
Hmm.
was like, "Oh shoot!" Like he was cussing out, and I bring up this Compton thing, and you could tell from the moment he said, they made business decisions, or we're gonna make business decisions." When he said that, a lot of things happen with the Raiders. Um, and he now every time he goes to the podium on the presser, you could tell he's being a coach on how to talk now because
Hmm.
he was very outspoken and just like, and I could just see the difference. But he has a lot to learn. I mean, it's first time he's coaching. The only thing us with Raider fans, we just fall in love with the thought like, oh, everything's gonna be ready to go and everything, but
Yeah.
it's a learning process as a coach, and the player needs to buy in on what he wants, and once we get that going, we're gonna start doing good.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point I didn't really think about because last week after a Pittsburgh game, like I was mad. I was like, you know what? Antonio Pierce, you gotta show me something. But now you bring it up like you gotta let this guy make some mistakes too, because this is his first year of being a head coach,
Yep.
essentially. Like when he said like the business decision thing with the players, I was like, didn't you punt it on 4th and 2 from the
Yeah.
50? I'm like, well, what are you talking about? But maybe I should give him a little leeway and let him make these mistakes. And maybe this can be our guy for 8 seasons, 10 seasons, or as long as he wants. And we can
Yeah.
build a foundation here. So I'm willing to walk back some of my anger from last week. It's like
Yeah.
let the man have that
Mm.
first year, much like we're talking about like our quarterbacks or something. They're just so fresh. They're
I
so fresh.
I think if we take care of the Rams this weekend, and then next Sunday the Chiefs come into Allegiant Stadium. We have not beat the Chiefs at Allegiant Stadium
Hmm.
since the stadium was open. So um, he got the Raiders ready to go on Christmas last year to go
Yes.
into Kansas City and win them on a very, very weird game, but it could happen. So if you win, you beat the Rams and somehow find a way to take care of the Chiefs at our house next weekend, you're back in track.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a big 2 week swing. And, thinking with like, when the season's over, you start as a fan justifying the Raiders season or whatever your team is. That
Yeah.
Christmas last year when they beat the Chiefs handily in Kansas City, I thought that really knocked the Chiefs on their ass and they got their act together after that loss. So in a
Yeah.
way I was like if it wasn't for the Raiders, the Chiefs you wouldn't win the Super Bowl, you know?
Ex-
I was like I
That's
got to
it.
credit. Yeah, like I think the Raiders won the Super Bowl for you Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
Yeah, there's so many ups and downs with being just a fan in general. And like you were talking about, like the games you've gone to. I went to an away game, a Raiders away game last year. I went to the Chicago one where it was just an absolute mess, just a mess. I'm there in a crowd full of Chicago Bears fans with my Raiders gear, and then I got to walk out of there. I'm like, dang, what's going on this season? I get dumped by my girlfriend 2 weeks later, and I can't help but
Oh,
blame the Raiders' loss and Josh
yeah.
McDaniels. I was like, I can't take this anymore.
That was a horrible loss.
That was
I was gonna go to that game, and something came up like the day before, and we end up canceling everything. And then after the game, I was like, oh man, thank God I didn't go to this game. It
Right.
was bad.
Right. Yeah, the world of Pat Ramirez fell apart after the Raiders loss.
Yeah,
But like anything else, you got to rebound for the next week, you
for
know.
sure.
I want to talk about comedy because you're doing stand-up comedy also,
Yeah,
and you're new to the stand-up comedy world. But the thing that's interesting to me is you're going up as MC Raider. You're still got all the Raiders gear on.
yeah,
This is your thing. Are you doing a Raiders stick, or I watched some of the stand-up though. It's about your life and stuff. But it
yeah.
seems like the Raiders made it to the stage as well. Where did you get the motivation to start stand-up?
Well, look, MC Raider just started. I mean, I got a somewhat of a big following on social media, and then I
Hmm.
was blogging on YouTube, and I kept doing like funny skits. So it's just like I wear Raiders every day. Like everywhere I go, I'm always wearing
Really?
Raider clothes. Yes,
Yeah.
I don't. The only time you see me dressed not Raiders is either at a when I go to church or a funeral because
Funeral,
I'm
wedding,
yeah
wedding. You got a Raider
yeah
suit.
yeah I wear like a Raider tie, so I'm always wearing Raiders.
Really? Okay.
Yeah
Wow.
yeah
So, well,
yeah.
that's good.
So
You've kind of modified the clothing for the
yeah
event if needed. Raiders tie.
yeah.
That's
So
nice.
but comedy, I mean, I guess for every comedian, you probably heard all your life, like, hey, you should do stand-up comedy. You should do stand-up comedy. I've heard that all my life with
Hmm.
my family, but it didn't happen until May 17. Nikki, you had her on your show, Our Lady of Raider Nation, right?
Oh yes. Uh
Yeah,
huh.
yeah, yeah. So she was doing a Raider roast at the Bellflower Stand-Up Comedy Club, and I don't, I'm not sure if they were like selling tickets or not, but she she said if I was down to do 5 minutes on stage, and
Oh.
and I said I don't care. I my stage presence and all that because I'm a musician and I sang for church for a long time, so like I had nothing that was nothing for me. So I said sure, let's do it. So she put me on the flyer and it was a sold out show. And when I went up on stage, um, I was killing the first 5 minutes, man. People were just it was awesome. I got off stage when I went back to the green room. There was a few comedians right there, like there were actual comedians.
Hmm.
They're like, MC Raider, you've done this before, right? And I'm like, no, this is my first time. They're like, no, you've done comedy before. I was like,
Hmm.
no, this is my first time. And they're like, oh man, I'm gonna put you on my show next week. And that's how it started. I was like, all right. So
Oh
they put me
really?
on that. They put me on that flyer, and then I put it on my social media. So I had a bunch of Raider fans showed up to that flyer. I mean, to that comedy night, and that triggered another person to invite me to another
Yeah.
show, and that's how it started, man. It was just yeah, it's been five
Really?
months, and yeah, it's been 5 months, and I've been hitting like all the big clubs now, like the Ice House,
Hmm.
the Laugh Factories, the Haha Comedy Club in North Hollywood.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
I've been to the Improvs already too out here, so it's like it's amazing journey, you
Yeah.
know.
So you didn't necessarily have a inclination to want to be a stand-up. Just the idea was presented to you, and you're like, you did it, and you really liked it,
Yeah.
and you kept going with it. So, what were your thoughts of stand-up comedy before you did stand-up? Did you have favorite comedians? Did you follow it
Oh
at
yeah,
all?
yeah, 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 definitely. Um, what's his name? Oh, Willie Barcena. He's
Oh
one of my
yeah.
favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's my favorite. My wife's favorite too. And then like also like I grew up listening to like Cat Williams and like the Kings of Comedy, but in Spanish it was like Jeff Garcia and Willie Barcena, that type of
Right.
things. But that was it. And then me and my wife will go to comedy shows maybe once or twice every 2 3 months. We'll go to shows. So I liked it the whole time. And every time we were there, my wife's like, "You should be doing over there. You should be doing that."
Oh really? Wow.
So
So you had a
yeah,
lot of encouragement
yeah,
before the idea was ever in your head.
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And what are your thoughts on it 5 months into it? The writing process, the performing of it. Is anything surprise you that you've kind of
Uh,
come across that you didn't in the beginning?
well, this is the thing. I don't write, and people tell me like, "Oh, what the hell?" Um, I write in my head. I think a lot about a lot of stuff, but
Hmm.
then I've been putting it together. And I enjoy it. I like it. Um, the only thing that I need to, because I already headlined the two shows. I did 29 minutes on one show, and it was awesome. It's just mainly like if I'm gonna continue doing this, I have to produce like my own shows and stuff like that. Because you know how it is
Yeah.
when they invite you places, and a lot of comedians don't get paid, like a lot or anything like that. So that's the hard part about it. If I really
Hmm.
want to push it, because I'm getting a lot of people following me to shows, especially Raider Nation shows up like, oh, MC Raider's gonna be here, and they show up 20, 30
Yeah.
people deep, and then I don't get the actual um how can I put it, like whoever's producing the show, they just, even though I brought the majority of the people, they haven't taken care of me the way they're supposed to.
Right.
That's the
Hmm.
only negative side I've seen in this comedy world. But other than that, man, I enjoy it. I have a lot of material, and it's fun right now.
Yeah. It's a really weird section of entertainment. It's almost like the blue collar job for entertainers is stand up comedy because you go wherever will have you, wherever work is. And you said it like you don't make very much money. More accurately, you don't make any money for a
Hmm.
long time. I've done it for over 10 years and I started somewhere that wasn't LA, so I've noticed the difference between LA shows and non-LA shows is huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a crowd in LA. Really, really hard. And the time is different. Headlining in LA is 25 minutes. Headlining on the road is 45 to an hour. It's
Hmm.
it's a very different kind of world. But you're right, it's really tough because everybody is a comedian in LA. And
Yeah.
I think you got a little bit of a jump start in the sense you built this fan base previous stand up with the Raider videos and the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And that's so hard to do. It's so hard to get people to come see you. And it seems like you've kind of cultivated that a little bit already. So that's a big jump start for you because now you can get on the stage and working on the craft in a lot more consistent way.
For sure.
What do the other comics think of you when you show up in the Raiders gear for like say a non-Raiders show? What do they say to you?
Yeah. No, they just like they call me "What's up, MC?" They know. I mean, they're just cool. They just like, hey man, this guy's always repping the Raiders all the
Yeah.
time. So
Well, what's gonna
yeah,
happen when you get out on the road, MC, and you have a spot in Denver? You have the Comedy Works in Denver,
yeah,
and you're gonna go up in
yeah.
Raiders gear. What's gonna happen then?
That's gonna be fun, man. Because like there's jokes that I clown my own team. It's not like I
Right.
go in
Hmm.
there shit. Like I've it's been 40 years that we've been shit. So
Hmm.
I do clown my own team, and stuff like that. But that's actually the goal, man. I'm preparing something with a few people for next year. So all the away games, when Raiders go and play whatever city, book a comedy night at those cities for the
Oh yeah,
Raider
that's a
fans
great
that travel.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's in the works now, and I'm gonna keep pushing here, and hitting all these clubs here and getting more people to know about my comedy. But that's the plan. So I'm excited for that, because that'll be good financial for me and my family if I produce these shows and be there.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm always wearing Raider clothes no matter what, man. So
Yeah. It's
they
gonna
invite
happen no
me,
matter what. Yeah.
yeah, MC Raider, so everybody knows, and it helps out for my social media too, so they know that that's the Raider
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing with like I've been around comedians for so long. Sometimes you don't know if that's really them on stage. And sometimes you do, and I think with you that comes through as really authentic. Like, yeah, this isn't like an act I made that works. Like this is
yeah,
me. This is
yeah,
you are
yeah,
hearing me. This is not something I wrote because I thought it was good. Like you are hearing me. And
yeah.
I think that comes through and you've only been doing it a short while. And I think you've already got something that you can sink your teeth into and really just sort of like just present yourself, express yourself on the stage, which is really hard to do early on. That's really good. Have you
Yeah.
had any tough shows yet? Where you're like, oh shit, I thought this would work and it
I
didn't work.
well, I got invited to it was like a smoke weed location, and it was like very tough. Like they had a good
I thought we just
headliner.
call those in LA shows.
Yeah, it was just like, what the hell? And then I was like, the vibe was weird. Everybody was like in their own world, and the few comics that went up, nobody was even listening to the comedians. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm not even gonna try anything here. I'm just gonna, whatever. But that was like the most weird show to me.
Oh, really?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Other than that, I've done with a majority of like Latinos, Chicanos that follow me around in the shows that I've gone out here. That crowd is like my crowd. I have gone to like Sunset Beach, more in the Orange County area where there's more white people,
Hmm.
and I actually did really good. I've been trying not to say a lot of bad words when I go to those shows, just to keep it more like
Oh, okay.
and yeah, yeah, because with Latinos and Chicanos, you throw like a Spanish bad word here and there, and it's something that it's funny, but
Yeah.
I went to Sunset Beach when it was like completely like a lot of white people. So I changed it up a little bit and it was a good show, man. People loved
Hmm.
it. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Like as someone who is Hispanic myself, I grew up in a border town and doesn't speak Spanish. I know all the curse words in Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I will laugh at all the same things. And you're right, like the person that speaks English but has the Spanish word every like eighth word, like
Yeah.
you still will know what they're saying. I'm like, yeah, that's how my uncle talks. That's how my
Yeah.
grandma talks. Just like it's half English, half Spanish. And but you were conscious enough that you had to change it up for a non-Spanish speaking. Although I would think in California,
Yeah.
most Anglo people still would get the vibe, but you were conscious,
Yeah.
had to change it a little bit, not so much Spanish.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
That's
But
funny.
that was awesome. Yeah. Other than that, man, it's been a great ride. I just had my show in Las Vegas at the Stratosphere Hotel and
Oh,
Casino.
hmm.
It was the Raiders, Steelers, Cowboys. I mean, Raiders, Steelers comedy show. This last Friday we were there, and
Mm,
it was a good turnout. A lot of Raiders super fans, and it
yeah.
was awesome. It was an awesome show.
How
So
about what's your comedy schedule, say during the week when you're not producing a show or on a bill? What do you like to do to work out material? Is there any places you like to hit? How do you like to approach it?
that's the thing. I've never done an open mic. Imagine?
Oh, really?
I've never done an open mic, and I should, but I just haven't.
Yeah.
And and I got connected with this it's like it's a comedy um Eddie West, he's the producer for Laugh Out Loud, and they produce shows everywhere. So
Hmm.
I got in with them, and so they've been having shows like a lot of places. Like,
I see.
yeah, we have a show Sunday. Next week we're in Hollywood and stuff like that. So I just been jumping on it.
Well, I would say, as someone who started out in the open mics, the sooner you can not do them, the better. The goal of open mics is to move out of them.
Yeah,
So the whole lore that like that's where you get better, that's where you try new stuff. I think that is gone because you wait forever, no one kind of listens to you, but the hope
yeah,
was that the club sees you going and then they get to know you and then you progress. But that is
yeah,
gone, especially in LA
yeah,
where
definitely.
there's so many open mics and at some point you ask yourself, is this helping me or hurting me? But on the
Yeah,
flip side, it does help you get some tough skin. Where you're like,
yeah,
oh, these motherfuckers don't like me. They don't want me to go
yeah,
up. Screw it. I'm going up and I'm giving them. I'm gonna punch them in the face with
yeah.
whatever I
I
got.
did. I sat down at a open mic because it was open mic before the show actually started,
Mm,
and everyone who's at the open mic they want to be comedians, so
right.
or they're coming, so they're not laughing at your shit.
Right. Yeah. You're
Then
you're
then
bothering them.
yeah,
It's
you're not
funny.
laughing. So the people that laugh is people who are not comedians and they go to see a show,
Hmm.
So that's what I noticed in the open mic. But hey, it just man, it's been it's been it's been awesome so far.
Yeah.
Will I do this forever? I have no idea. Um, because I don't want to be just a regular comedian who shows up to shows and get paid $50. I mean, it is what it is. I have a family, I'm married, and I
Hmm.
can't just dedicate my whole time to that. So the the uh the goal here is to continue killing the stages right now, get to get known as a comedian, and then do those shows that I'm gonna do with the Raider fans after every season
Yeah.
on the way games and do that because that'll be
Yeah.
great.
Well, that's a great idea. Would you say that would be like your ideal goal is you could do comedy at these Raider away games, you have your online presence, and you're sort
Yeah.
of managing your own entertainment world. Would you say that is the ultimate goal, or is there anything you would add to that?
No, I think that's it right now. So, for example, you live in Texas, right?
No, I live in LA.
Oh no, no, I'm sorry. I thought you live in
I
Texas.
grew up in
Yeah.
Texas. You're right.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, so that will be my thing. So wherever like for example next season when the schedule comes out, then start booking those comedy shows like the Friday or Saturday before that game in that
Hmm.
city and invite because the Raider fans travel, so there's
Yeah.
always a good
I was
amount
so
of Raider
shocked how
fans.
many Raiders fans were at this Bears game I was at last
Yeah,
year.
yeah, they travel. So when I could produce these shows at their cities, that would be awesome. So it'd be something I want to do, and then just invite like a local comic from there, take one from here, and then a host, and I'll finish the
Yeah.
night. Yeah,
Right, right. And then you have the Raiders game on that Sunday. That's a packed
yeah,
weekend. And that
yeah,
essentially is the life of the stand-up comedian is show Friday night, show Saturday night, back home, and then
yeah,
again the next weekend.
yeah,
So you are essentially kind of living that life as a traveling fan
yeah.
like that. What about the home games? What would you do for those? Are those your weekends off, or would you
Yeah.
try for something in Vegas
No,
sporadically?
if something pops up in Vegas, then I mean, yeah, for
Hmm.
sure we'll do something like that. Right now, the Black Hole um, chapter, they have all the stuff going on in Vegas, like Saturdays and Fridays. So everybody goes to those parties.
Yeah.
But um, but yeah, that's something I could probably try too. But
Yeah.
right
Well,
now,
Vegas is so saturated with entertainment options as it is, much like here in LA.
yeah,
So I could see that being tough. But if you go to Denver, now we're talking like people want to see entertainment. When
yeah,
I started comedy in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I couldn't believe how many people show up to these comedy shows. I was like, I
yeah,
never knew about it, but people want to see a show. They want to see a good show. They want to be entertained. So
mm,
it really can work. You live in LA long enough and you get surprised when people want to do something. You're
for
like, you want
sure.
to go to
Yeah.
something? Wow. What a
So
crazy
this is
thing.
you do comedy full time?
Yes. Yeah. I've been a
Oh,
comedian in LA about 10 years now.
oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Oh,
started in Salt Lake City. I was there a couple years doing comedy at their club. And then I moved to LA to pursue it. And I've been everywhere, but I've seen I guess you would say the trying to make it version of it, where you go anywhere that would have you. I've been at every club. I've been on every bringer show. I've
yeah,
been bumped by everybody in town, you
yeah,
know. So like you go through a lot of just traveling, driving, because of me, because of my last name, Ramirez, I was on every Hispanic night,
yeah,
and I was always the token pocho guy who doesn't speak
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Spanish. I
yeah,
was
yeah,
that guy. I've been on every dorky dude, single dude show. You go wherever will have you. Is
yeah,
kind of funny, which is it's tough because you never know which crowd you're going to get in front of. But
for sure.
that's your challenge as the performer is that whoever is sitting in the chair, like I'm going to get them to laugh with my
Yeah,
stuff. It's
yeah,
really, really hard. I've seen people crack. I've seen people crack on
yeah,
stage when it's
yeah,
just not working. And I've seen that person, like you said, when the audience is not listening, not receptive, and they
yeah,
don't stop. They do not let
yeah.
off the gas. They're doing their 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes at full capacity, no matter what. I've seen that too. It's a really weird art form,
Yeah,
but
I
it's really
just think
hard.
like a lot of these comedy shows where they have them like at bars or restaurants and stuff like
Mhm.
that. It's it's not that I don't like them, but you don't get the same energy when you do it at a comedy club,
Yeah.
because people go to comedy clubs to laugh and they're there and there's like the show, and but you go to these bars where people are drinking, they're loud, they're
Hmm.
talking in the back. So those type of shows is just not like I. It's not that I don't try to do them and everything, but I just really want to focus on doing these
Yeah.
clubs.
Yeah, definitely. I've done plenty of bar shows where the pool table is making noise in the background and you're
Yeah,
like, how's this going to work? You know?
yeah,
I would say though, like it really does make you appreciate the comedy club though. Because you're
Yeah.
like, well, if I toughed out 10 minutes in front of that rowdy bar, shit, I could kill this comedy club. Like I'm ready to go. It makes you motivated to kind of do
Definitely.
a real show. So they're kind of like your practice. That's kind of the
Yeah.
Antonio Pierce yelling at you in
Yeah.
practice is the bar
Yeah.
shows,
Yeah.
the bar shows, the bowling alleys, the coffee shops
Yeah.
where you're like, okay,
You,
I made it through that. I don't know how, but I made it. Now I'm ready for a comedy club.
yeah. You don't have any other shows coming up?
Not regularly. I used to
Mm.
host a show in Burbank. I was the Flappers Tuesday night show host
Oh,
for a
Flappers.
while.
Yeah.
Yep, I was that for a while. I've been in all the clubs. The Ice House was a great club, and then it closed and then it reopened, and it was like a brand new place. So it was that's like a staple of LA comedy, and I would argue might be the best club in town because it gets real crowds. Whereas if
Ice
you're at
House?
the Ice House, if you
Yeah.
go to the
Yeah.
Improv or Laugh Factory or the Comedy Store in LA, you get LA crowds. And
Yeah.
it's kind of tough, but in a good way, but it is different where you don't get that pop of something like the Ice House is different. They did a great job with that club. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a hard process, but I mean, at some point, like in the last maybe during when the pandemic started, it's like all my stuff needs to go online now. Everything, if every set I record needs to go online, all these interviews need to go online, and
Yeah.
you said it, you have to make your own stuff. You can't wait
Yeah.
for these clubs to come calling you because they have plenty of comedians. This town is lousy
Yeah.
with comedians.
Yeah.
You need to find some way for them
Yeah.
to want you. And like you're doing it with your social media stuff, the putting comedy up there, and then whatever you want to do as a person, just start recording it.
For sure.
Whether it's Raiders or comedy or entertainment or news or politics, like we have it in our phone. Like go start recording it. And then
Yeah.
for me, it's like, look at all these people I have found, all these Raiders fans I have found that all have something beyond just being a Raiders fan.
Yeah.
And like that's what interests me the most. It's like, why are you a Raiders fan, not in LA? Why are you a Raiders fan, but you're also this? It's
Yeah.
very interesting to find out people's lives beyond just being a Raiders fan. And then in my case, like, it's like Raiders is such a part of like my life timeline. It was like, oh, I remember in the 8th grade, the Raiders got this far in the playoffs. Oh, when I was in college, they got to the Super Bowl. That was the year they lost, and I cried in my dorm room. I can associate
yeah.
it with all the times in my life with the Raiders season. Have you ever cried because of a Raiders game?
Cried pissed off. Yeah. Not
Cry,
like,
yeah, pissed off crying, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When was the last time that happened?
Oh man, there's so many.
So you're, as a fan, you're not afraid to like let
Yeah.
out a tear every now and again.
No. Well, I'm 2 years sober from alcohol. So
Mm-hmm.
before when I used to drink, I used to just get all loud, all pissed off and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say, yeah, the Super Bowl we lost in 2002 was
Yep.
tough because I had a couple friends that were 49er fans at the house and they were just talking shit, and it was like I was so pissed. But other than that, man, I think just like some heartfelt losses that we've done, like like well, not too long ago when Renfro got that concussion, that fumble we lost at the end, like
Oh
games that were
God.
like, oh God, it was so,
Yep.
yeah. So
I remember that was a tough loss. That
yeah,
was just a
yeah.
fumble, touchdown, game
Or
over. Tough.
like the Bears game that you attended, it was like a high school quarterback beat us, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That was so bad.
You know what I mean?
Yep, that's true. I have cried at 2 Raiders losses, really. Like one, I was a kid. And you remember they went to the AFC Championship like in 1990 against the Buffalo Bills. This was the Art Shell era.
Oh yeah, Bills won, huh?
Bills won. This was the year the Bills went to the Super Bowl for the very first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember it was the early game, and my parents made us go to church. So I missed the first half. I was like, well, we got to get home. We got to get home. I got to watch the game. And we turned it on as halftime, and they were already being blown out. And I just started crying. I was like, yeah, I missed the game and they're losing. So I just started crying as a little kid at the
Yeah.
dinner table. And then the Super Bowl, I shed a little tear. We're like, damn it.
Yeah.
Like we were This close. That
So
that game
close.
even started off good for the Raiders. That Super
Yeah.
Bowl with an interception, and then it
Well,
just fell apart.
even that tuck rule with Brady,
Yeah, for some reason I didn't cry at that one. I was just utterly confused.
we could have won that Super Bowl that year.
Yep, that was the Brady. That was New England Rams Super Bowl.
Yeah. Hmm.
That would have been a great matchup if it had been Raiders Rams. I
Yeah.
think that was in New Orleans that Super Bowl because we
Yeah.
had a great team that year. Every
Yep.
once in a while, I have to go back and rewatch that game and get pissed off all over again on
Yeah.
YouTube.
I don't even watch it.
Yeah, I don't know why I do it to myself. And then I'll watch that one Baltimore one, the one where Baltimore won the Super Bowl that year and they beat us at home in the AFC Championship game because fat
Oh.
Tony Saragusa fell on Rich
Oh
Gannon's
yeah. Yeah.
collarbone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was a winnable game. That was a tough one
Yeah.
too. Very tough. Well, I got two more questions for you. Number one, take me through a typical Raiders Sunday for you. How do you do it? What's your setup? When does it all start for you?
Well, there's two. If I'm in Vegas, um, we usually get up really early if we're in Vegas. All right, then
Hmm.
we go over there to have some breakfast at the Mandalay Bay across the street from there. And then this year they've been doing the march. It's like the march of the Walk of Shame now because they
Mm.
march with the
Oh,
with
I've seen
the
videos of this. What is
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. So the band from Las Vegas, the university right there, uh, they they get there and all the Raider fans get together and they walk towards the stadium and stuff like that. But mainly I go to work because I vlog for my YouTube channel, so
Hmm.
I'm just like vlogging and showing all the tailgates and talking to fans and stuff like that. That's just when I go to the games, but I 1000% rather be at home to watch a game. So I like to get up early, have a coffee, start looking at on ESPN in the morning,
Hmm.
and then when my family's asleep, I'll go and buy breakfast and have food ready for. I make like a hotel get experience here in my backyard. Start
Oh, wow.
barbecuing
That's
and
that's a good idea. I
yeah,
like that.
yeah. So I have like flags everywhere in my backyard, and it's just fun here at home. So
Yeah.
that's basically it, man. Like I enjoy it so much now that I don't drink. Before I used to drink since Friday, Saturday. I was already drunk Sunday, and so I don't miss none of that stuff. So I just have a great time
Yeah.
now doing that. But
Was it hard
yeah,
to quit drinking? Did you have a tough time with it, or how have you made the change?
yeah. The first 3 months were very difficult,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's another hour of a podcast we get into
Right.
that. But
But it
yeah,
seems
it's
like you're
just
in a good space with it. It seems like it's a positive life change for you that you've
oh
done well
yeah,
with. Yeah.
yeah. I'm done with that, man. I enjoy life now to the fullest,
Hmm.
and it's just great. It's just awesome, waking up not hangover and having a coffee in the morning and just being normal, man. And it just
Yeah, I see.
got me closer to my wife, my kids, and yeah, I enjoy it.
What's the situation for the actual game? It's the only game on TV, or do you keep monitoring other games as well, or do you have to lock in?
I don't watch no other game.
That's the only game on.
Only game I watch, and then there's like obviously good games like this weekend. It's like 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs. Like
Yeah.
that's gonna be a good game, but like I don't care if I miss it or whatever. If I'm here, we have it on TV and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But Raider time don't bother me at all, man. I'm on my
Right.
recliner and watching the game, and yeah, that's it.
Who's your favorite all-time Raider?
Well, for me, Charles Woodson.
Oh,
Yeah,
really? I would not have guessed
yeah,
that. Woodson guy,
yeah,
huh?
yeah. Charles Woodson. Before that, I mean, I could say Rich Gannon. I really like Rich Gannon.
Hmm.
When he came, that was like when I was really, really into football. Um, but I mean, then you start looking at the old players like Bo Jackson and Howie Long and all the stuff like that. But for me, it's Charles Woodson,
Oh,
24.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You know what I like about just the Raiders in general, like you mentioned Rich Gannon too. I always like when they rejuvenated a player. Like a player came from another team, like Rich Gannon came from like Minnesota, and then he came to the Raiders, and then he had this awesome career late
yeah,
in his career. Charles Woodson was like that. Like I thought that was always something that was special about the Raiders. It seemed to be like a lot of players' last stop, you know, for better
Well,
or for worse.
Woodson got drafted to the Raiders.
Oh,
He
did
then
he?
he
Oh,
le-
and then he
then
left to Green
he
Bay.
left to Green Bay, won a Super Bowl, and then he said, you know what, I want to retire a Raider and came play a few more years with the
That's
Raiders.
what I remember. Yeah, the comeback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always liked about the Raiders. Like Warren Sapp was a Raider.
Yeah.
Marshawn
Yeah.
Lynch, Randy Moss was a
Yeah.
Raider.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was
Yeah.
cool in some way. It didn't always work out for the players, but I always
Yeah.
thought that was cool. Is like you want to finish with as a Raider, you can.
For sure.
You know, what's your happiest Raiders memory?
Being able to take my whole family, man, that was like in the bucket list. I took them to all together for the Raiders versus the Lions in Oakland. Like that year, the last year they were in Oakland, I was able to do that, and
Hmm.
that's like, and then we won. I have a few actually. October 27, which is next Sunday. In 2013 is when I took my son for his birthday in Oakland. That's when Pryor, the quarterback, ran like 99 yards on the Steelers. Remember that game?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
Terrell
was like
Pryor was our
yeah,
QB for a little bit.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah. I was with my, I was with my two boys, and it was my son's birthday that year, that day actually, and
Hmm.
those are memories that I will never forget, man. Awesome, and just having my whole
Yeah.
family there in Oakland the last year, and it was just awesome, unbelievable. Just seeing my wife, my kids there, and all of us together. That was
Oh, that
great,
sounds
man.
like, yeah, a great feeling.
Yeah,
So your
yeah.
family has adopted the Raiders also?
Everyone, man, all my kids, everyone's Raider fan.
Was there
Yeah,
any, was there any convincing as little kids, or they just
nah.
it was genetic?
My wife was already a Raider fan, but not
Hmm.
hardcore like me. And then all my kids, I so we're a blended family, but I raised my stepkids when they were little, and it was just every Sunday,
And they took to it. Wow.
every Sunday, Dad's barbecuing and watching the Raiders, and they were out there for a minute, and then they'll leave me by myself after getting our ass kicked for all those
Yeah,
years.
right. You got to have a strategy in these
Uh,
games. You're right. I have
yeah,
implemented the strategy that it's okay to just skip the third quarter sometimes. Just go take a
yeah,
break, walk around the block, come back for the fourth. Whatever happens,
yeah,
happens. You know, I've had to implement that one. At least last week I did.
for sure,
Let's come back. Well, that's good. I definitely don't think any of my family would adopt the Raiders. But that's part about being a Raiders fan is you have to be an outcast
for
in
sure.
some way, shape, or form. You have to fight through being a Raiders fan. So, well, MC Raider, this has been an awesome interview. I hope you and I don't have any more crying moments this season for the Raiders,
Yeah,
but
thank you,
go
Patrick.
find him, everybody. He's going to be at a comedy show near you. Maybe we'll get to share the stage at some point soon. That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, MC, and good luck to you this
Take care,
weekend. Go
brother. For
Raiders.
sure. Yeah, let's go. Take care, brother.
Thanks, buddy.